Okay, so I would like to ask 3 questions and have each of you try to answer it with just 3 minutes, and this way we can move through quite a bit of material. So I realize that a lot will be sacrificed in giving answers that are only 3 minutes, but for the point of this panel, we're looking for 3-minute answers. I also want to mention that Dr. Katz will be leaving at 4. The panel will continue till 4:30. Okay, the first 3 questions that I'd like to ask. First, regarding African American health. There was a study that said community-dwelling Black Americans as compared with whites had low levels of total 25-hydroxyvitamin D and vitamin D binding protein, resulting in similar concentrations of estimated bioavailable 25-hydroxyvitamin D. Racial differences in the prevalence of common genetic polymorphisms provide a likely explanation from this observation. So the question, I guess, is for African Americans, do they need to make any special considerations regarding lifestyle or vitamins or minerals, or is there anything different that they should take into account that affects them more than white people? Second question. Someone complained to me about Brenda Davis last night. They said, I'm disappointed in Brenda Davis. And I said, how come? They said, well, first of all, she's thin, and she's pretty, and she's healthy, and she's not representing what's really happening for a lot of women who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And you asked her twice about the menopause question and Pam Popper, and the reality is this is a big deal. That with women are being told that they should be thin with flat stomach, high libido, lots of energy, and the reality with premenopause and menopause is there's a significant emotional, hormonal things going on, and the question again is this something that's affecting a small percentage of women, or is this a gigantic issue that's just not talked about because it's just blown off? So, or it's just not being adequately validated for women that this is significant things are going on and how they should deal with it. And then the third question is, please explain the results of the health professionals follow-up study. Why do you like this study? So those are the 3 first questions.
I guess I'll start with the question about African American health and D3. First of all, I'm kind of glad this question came up because it gives me a chance to metaphorically scream at the top of my lungs, it's not a vitamin, it's not a vitamin, it's not a vitamin, it's a hormone. Okay, we were all duped into calling 1,25-dihydroxycalciferol a vitamin when the dairy industry decided that they were going to artificially spike their products with this hormone to entice people into purchasing them. And again, it is a hormone that we all would make if we were running around butt naked in the sun as we were supposed to be, okay? But since we decided to leave equatorial areas on this earth and move to northerly climates where you would freeze to death, or certainly freeze parts of your anatomy off if you ran around without any clothes, we can't do that. We have to wear clothes, we have to remain indoors, and as a result, we don't get the sun exposure that we need to make the enough of the hormone to keep us in good health. So the question is, how much should we be making? And that's, or how much should we have within our system? Oh, I got to keep this to 3 minutes. Let me say this. If we were running around naked on the savannah in Africa, we'd probably make upwards of 10 to 20,000 international units of D3 a day. I'm not suggesting that anyone take that much, but I think everyone should be taking about 2,000 IUs a day because it's not only important for bone health, it also affects our mood and our immune function. So that is true of everyone, but it's particularly true of darker skinned people, because that means that it takes us longer and more sun exposure, which again, we don't get because of where we live, to make the hormone. So we need to be sure that we're taking an adequate supplement. It's not means that there's anything wrong with a plant-based diet, because it's an artifact of how we choose to live.
All right, I'm going to jump in on the Brenda question. She looks about half her age. She's very attractive as she is thin. She'll have to deal with the rest. So I apologize on Brenda's behalf. And then I actually wanted to talk about the vitamin D question as well. Amen, it's a hormone. What I'd like to append, because I think you covered that beautifully, Milton, is the fact that vitamin D is why we have different skin tone in the first place. Because if you live in an equatorial clime, as we did at our origins, the origins of our common family, then darker skin protects you somewhat against the equatorial sun and leaves you able to make sufficient vitamin D. As you move away from that level of sun exposure, you actually have to be more efficient at making vitamin D. And this was work done, I think it was Penn State, and it was published in 2015, but there were specific genetic mutations linked directly to vitamin D metabolism that explained our skin pallor problem. So, essentially having a lack of skin pigment is the mutation from our common origins, and it related specifically to the advantage in vitamin D manufacture as we moved away from our native equatorial home. So it's configured into the great human diaspora. There's a link really between our often sad inability to see that we're one family and the metabolism of vitamin D, which I find quite fascinating. But if you want to sort of think of it this way, at the origins of our common family, we were all dark-skinned and we were equatorial. And all the rest was mutation and happenstance.
I love that. and it's so true. And we need to recognize it. So we just need to recognize it. I will address, I guess, I'll say in my defense, I wish I had a picture of my mom to show you. She's 82 years old, and she's been making good lifestyle choices her whole life. And I mentioned before, she still weighs about the same as she did when she got married over 60 years ago. These are choices. We can choose to take care of ourselves. And I know I inherited some really good genes. My mom didn't have really symptoms of menopause either. And I know that women do suffer even when they make good lifestyle choices. And I don't want to discount that at all. The honest answer is I really don't know enough. I'm not a medical doctor about the more challenging cases, and if you have a propensity towards really suffering through menopause, I would try a lot of different things, varying the exercise, making more dietary shifts, all of those things, taking care of stress, getting more sunshine, all of that, and trying to see what you can do, and if all else fails, you can visit your doctor and try other things. But I think it's really important, especially as a vegan. The reality is vegans are on trial in the eyes of the world. And when we blow it, we send a really strong message that others are justified in slaughtering animals for food because then they think they need it. So I've been trying for a lot of years to do the best I can to set an example of health my goal is to climb a mountain when I turn 100. I really want to prove to the world that not eating animal products will be an advantage to humankind.